My name is Raynard Jackson. I'm President CEO of Raynard Jackson Associates LLC in Washington, D.C. And we are a government affairs, political consulting PR firm, and we represent a lot of members of Congress, governors, presidents. We work in entertainment and Hollywood, as well as working with professional athletes, and we do a lot of work in Africa, helping African presidents with their relationships with the U.S., Congress, and the White House.
Hey, it's Kellen, and today on Diversified Game, these are my favorite conversations to have with fellow consultants, with fellow people who know something about Africa, but more importantly, with people who have done it even longer than me. Now, I'm 41 years old. Y'all know black don't crack if you don't smoke it, but I just had my first colonoscopy, and you're going to have to pay more than the OnlyFans admission at Patreon to see the results of that clean colonoscopy, but hit me up if you really want to deal with that. But this chief, I'm gonna call him a chief because he's a titled man, Raynard Jackson. You've seen him on various publications, but especially on the Roland Martins. And don't y'all think just when him and Roland are cutting up because they may be buddy, that he doesn't have 30 years plus of serious experience. Look in the description box, go to his website. This is bigger than just, oh, I'm gonna take a picture with somebody. This is the stuff that you can't buy this experience. You just have to live it. You have to go through the journey. So Chief Jackson, from the famous Jackson family at that, welcome to the show. How are you doing? St. Louis, stand up. Welcome, you king. How are you doing, my brother?
Hey, listen, I appreciate it. Good to be on your show. I appreciate you reaching out to me. And yeah, I'm from the loop, no question. Me, Cedric Entertainer, Nelly, the St. Lunatics. And yeah, we keep and I love going back home to St. Louis. And I forgot Guy and Joe Torre, lead those boys out as well.
Definitely. And you guys, if there's any lag in the audio, bear with us. Just remember, back in the day, we could not have had this conversation this way. And sometimes internet's going to do what internet does, but we thank the internet and the AI because it's about to take over anyway. Tell us, I just want to get into it, getting into this game, especially, and I'm thinking about that young consultant or that person who's 14 who wants to get in this game and say, I want to do and have some of those experiences that you've had. What does it take? Were you a good student in middle school, high school, before you went to, college? Give us the game on, mapping that out and how you got here.
Wow, Kellen, that's an interesting question because if you look at my background, me growing up in the hood of St. Louis, we didn't have everything I wanted as a kid, but we had everything we needed. So it's one of those situations you were poor, but when no one in your family knows that, so you just thought your experience was normal. But no, it's interesting. There's nothing, if you look at my bio, which is on my website, Kellen, there is nothing in there that would indicate that I will be doing what I'm doing today, especially at the level that I'm doing today. I, from St. Louis, went to grade school at Hamilton grade school, went to Soldan High School in St. Louis, and went off to Oral Roberts University, have a degree in tax accounting. And it wasn't so much, Kellen, that I was wanting to be an accountant, which I ended up being, but I knew that was a good background to have in doing what I wanted to do, which is dealing with. And so after I come home from Oral Roberts, I get an appointment by, I think either John Ashcroft, formerly general, he was governor of Missouri. I got a political appointment into his, and one day I'm at the office, this is before the internet, Kellen, and cell phones. So, I had to do it the old fashioned way. So some guy named Bucky Bush called me and said, we've been monitoring your career, and I'm pissed right now. I'm a brother from the hood. Some guy you don't know. I don't know Bucky. I know Bucky, but I don't know Bucky. So I'm like, who the hell get this guy called tell me he's been monitoring my career? That's a direct quote. And he said, "Oh, do that. How did this boy find out all this about me? I ain't never met the boy." And so he says, "You may know." I said, "And who's your brother?" George H.W. was current vice president of the United States. And he again said, "We've been monitoring you." And after this is like in June, he would call me and I want to have lunch with you. So heck now. Remember, this is before the internet. I can't Google this dude, find out who the heck he is and all. I'm like, Bucky Bush. So after the exam, I call him, go by his office, we have lunch. And again, we've been monitoring your career. And my brother, George H.W. Bush, the sitting vice president, wants you to chair his presidential campaign. Now, I'm man. And he said, "Don't answer now. Think about it and call me back." Hell, is that to think about? You got the sitting vice about in St. Louis. If you come out of the room, you Democrat. That's just the way it is. No multiple choice, no if, then, and this, that. It's just the way it is. So I'm like, hell yeah, I'm going to. So I call him back, and I end up carrying the vice president's campaign. He's the one that took me out of obscurity from St. Louis, brought me up to D.C., and we were in the White House. And after we left, I decided to stay here, finish up grad school, open up my own. And Kellen, I've been there ever since. And you remember the show Scandal?
Yep. I didn't watch it, but I remember it.
Right. See, I've never watched it. My girl Judy Smith, who the show is based off of, she and I both work for Old Man Bush. Blacks who are meaning when you got a problem, if you're a celebrity, you're an athlete, you're a big time corporate guy, you call people like us and we help solve your problem, make it disappear. And that's the premise of the show is based on Bush in the White House back in the 80s and 90s. And so that's how I got to DC, man. And so answering your broader question, how does someone get into the thing? I was president of my senior class in Solon back in St. Louis, Kellen. We had 2,000 students in our class, 500. So now school, you're lucky to have 100 people in your school nowadays.
Yeah. I mean, I had a big class.
Man, no one believes it, Kellen. Yeah. No one believes it. That I think my GPA when I finished school in counting was 2.3. And I can't kick my butt, but I got through it. And when I got through it, guess what, Kellen? When I finished, I had a degree that nobody could take from me. That's the important thing, is finishing the course. First place, do you finish the race?
Definitely. And let me say this for the internet, and if I can pull this part out, if you want, maybe we'll keep it, I don't know. If you want to take your camera off because the lag, because you are such a, I'll keep this part, y'all, because you are such a person who speaks with their facial expressions, but the lag, if it gets too bad, we'll cut it off. We'll act like you're in Africa and you can cut off the video and I'll put a picture there. But I want to see your face because it's like a person who you can, you feel their vibe because the expressions. But if it gets too bad for you, just do that. That might help. You say you were a bad student. I tell people I graduated high school with a 1.9, but once I got to college, I excelled. Were you excelling in high school, being the class president, and then maybe in college, you just found other things to find your interest? Like, I'm trying to see how much school and what you do now played a part in what you're doing. Because I personally don't believe in school. My kids homeschool, they got their own virtual teacher, because I'm like, school wasted a lot of my time. I wanted to do what I wanted to do at 12 years old.
Right. Good question. No, I was a great student in high school, and say I had the opposite experience. You. School good at college. I was great in high school, bad. And I went to an inner city school in St. Louis, Kellen. Our school was totally unprepared for that next level as far as college, because we didn't go to these suburban schools, where you had all the best of the equipment you needed. And the teachers, I had some great teachers, not good teachers, great students. But again, when I went to Oral Roberts, that was kind of like the Ivy League of all the religious schools, Marquette, Tulane, Xavier. And so Oral Roberts is like the Ivy League. And I had stiff competition. But I was so determined to finish my degree in accounting in 4 years. It almost killed me, literally, but I got through it. But the important thing is, when I went to Oral Roberts, it was the people I met there. When I drop the name Oral Roberts to this day, anywhere in the world, people open up doors for me and let me do things they wouldn't do for anyone else, because they know if you went to Oral Roberts, you had morals, you had value, you were just a good person, because we had to sign an honor code, Kellen, every semester. We couldn't go to club, we couldn't have women in our dorms. If we missed 3 services, we had to go to Wednesday and Friday from noon to 1. If you missed more than 3, you were automatically suspended, period. I don't care if you are a top athlete, whatever, you had to go to chapel. And so I have people to this day who will give me the keys to the house in all over the world, strictly on the strength they know I went to Oral Roberts. And so they view me in a certain light because of the history and the legacy of that school. So my advice to your listeners, Kellen, is it's all about relationships. You can be a 4.0 MIT graduate, have a PhD in nuclear. If you don't have people skills, you only going so far. You can be a C student like me and you. If you got the right relationship, you can be the next Bill Gates. All about relationships.
And I understand that, because before I went to the Harvard of the South, you guys see Grambling, for those of y'all who can see, I went to Ottawa University, and that chapel being required, I said, man, you come from where you had to go to church 2 or 3 times out of the week, and then you come and see these chapel, some more hypocrites, in chapel, and you say, man, yeah, what they were doing last night, off campus, but that's a whole nother thing. With what you're doing, a lot of privacy, a lot of, there's always secrecy. This game will spit you out. It'll actually make you think you are, king of Zamunda, king of the mountain, but it will then throw you into the lion's den where you have to be the fall guy. Can you talk about how you've avoided? My lobbyist friends in Seattle, the black ones, they say, Kellen, you can't be a lobbyist because you don't got a felony. I said, huh? But can you talk about, this game isn't all sweet, and we can't give a tell-all, because that's going to be for the book when we all transition. That's when that book comes out. But if it ever comes out into the metaverse, but can you talk about how, you've seen others trip and fall, and how you've been able to keep your nose clean in this dirty, sometimes beautiful game?
That's a good question. I tell you, Kellen, see, I'm a fish out of water in DC. Everybody knows me. I'm a known entity. And in Hollywood language, I'm a celebrity in the world of lobbying and politics. People know me. I've been around, but I paid my dues. The biggest thing, Kellen, which is why most guys coming behind us won't make it, they talk too much. Everything is going to the internet, and I'm down in Palm Beach with you. You and I go to dinner. I'm not taking pictures of me. I'm with my homeboy Kellen, chilling at this. No, that's our private time there. I don't put that in my. If you go to my social media, everything on there is business. My column, an event I'm about to do, but I'm not sitting up. I'm at Kellen's crib. We just chilling with the family. Discretion is everything in my world. And if you go, Kellen, running your mouth, it could be something innocent. Like the problem I have with women up here, if I take a woman to a movie, I don't need her going to her girlfriend and say, hey, Raynard took me to the movie last night. We had a great time. We went to this restaurant. I deal with people on a need-to-know basis. If you don't need to know, why am I telling? But yet everybody through the social media, Kellen, they want their 15 minutes of fame. Okay, do you want 15 minutes to fame or do you want a lifetime of fortune? Your choice. But the reason I've survived in this town, especially as a brother, Kellen, operating at the level I operate on, I can tell you, and one day get together when I come now, I'll share some stories with you in person. I have bailed out some of the biggest names in sports, business, entertainment, politics, out of jail. I'm talking about prominent white folks, not us, white folks. Now, why would the heck would they come to me? I got billionaires calling me when they need help. And the reason they call me, Kellen, is they know whatever we are involved in, it goes to my grave. I don't do books. I've been offered millions of dollars to do kiss and tell books. I work on campaigns, like I told you offline. I was Ron DeSantis' senior advisor in 2018, governor against Andrew Gillum. And man, a week or so after the campaign, some of the consultants on our side had books coming out. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? So you were taking all these notes and all these private meetings and phone calls so you can get this publisher to pay you all this money for. I don't do stuff like that. Old man Bush would come from the grave and kick my butt if I ever did something like that. I did things with him and for him that no one would ever know about. And now we're not, again, let your audience understand, we ain't talking about anything illegal or unethical. When you operate on the level that you and I do, Kelly, we deal with sensitive information. I know people who've been having affairs. I know people who got a 16-year-old girl pregnant who's married, and they can't afford to have that leaked out to the press. So how do you keep that from coming out on TMZ, on one of these, in the Inquirer? I've done stuff like that, and I don't go around bragging about it. People who know don't go around telling folks what they're doing. And those are the most dangerous people in the world, Kellen, because if they are bragging about what they did for me, what do you think they're going to do if they do something for you?
Exactly.
So discretion is a necessity in the world I operate.
Definitely. It goes back that old saying, grandmother would tell y'all, people who know don't tell, and people who don't tell, whatever. Whatever you
people
guys
who know
got
don't tell, and people who tell don't know.
Don't know. And there's a lot of that. And I think sometimes people watch the movies and they think, is art imitating life, or, the government is coming out with their own stable coin, which is going to be probably a hard rollout, because the government does very few things very well. Go to the VA, go ask some of your veterans. But the Cash App guy got killed, and you have all these conspiracies, but people don't know. Now they're saying Praz was an FBI informant because, he has a case. And I said, man, that's only Black media saying that. And they don't know. I can tell you they don't know. Anybody could be in the FBI, CIA. Y'all just don't know. But it's crazy how that goes. Yeah.
Let me inject that. You talking about these undercover operatives. Do you realize that Ralph Abernathy, who's one of Martin Luther King's top guys, FBI informant, Al Sharpton, FBI informant. So you got, and when we get together, I'll tell you something, but I'm gonna tell you something, man. Do you realize that Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran, do you understand they got all, you had people like Ralph Abernathy, who was one of Martin Luther King's top confidant. He was a mole for the FBI. Al Sharpton is an FBI asset. And you will be amazed, Kellen, who is wittingly and unwittingly being used by intelligence services. And so you got a Facebook, you got China, North Korea, Iran, Russia. They are all over Black social media. They are manipulating the NAACP's website and social media, the Black Caucus, the Urban League, and they don't even know it, Kellen. That's the idiocy in it. I wrote a column a couple of months ago, and the title of it was Blacks Have No Intelligence. I got turned down by all my syndicators and all my newspapers. They wouldn't run it unless I changed the title. So I found one of my individual newspapers where I knew the owner. He ran, and I just wanted to run with that title because now it's out there on the internet. It ain't going nowhere. but they were afraid of the blowback because of the title. But when I said blacks have no intelligence, what I was talking about, they have no idea of how the intelligence community operates. The CIA, FBI, DIA, NSA, and all these groups. And we're afraid of, there's no need to be afraid. Don't hate the player, hate the game. If you're sitting on the sidelines, Kellen, guess what? When I go to Africa, these presidents are amazed because I say things to them, they know I have no way of knowing unless I got access to the highest levels of power, because they lie to you and they think because I'm a brother from the US, they can just pull the wool over. I'll tell you, I won't name the country, but there's one president I was meeting with, he called me, flew me over, first class, only way I fly. And he said, Jackson, we need your help. Your country is not good to us. I said, what's the problem, Mr. President? Boom, boom, boom. He said, Jackson, we paid this Mzungu firm, for you all the uninitiated in Swahili, that means the white firm. So, and we paid them $1 million and they didn't deliver anything for it. So Jackson, we need your help, but we don't have any money. I said, Mr. President, I need you to do me a favor. That picture hanging behind you, and he stopped me right there and put his aids out because I think he knew where I was going. I said, Mr. President, after he put his aids out, I said, I need you to do me a favor. That picture, I need you to stand up and move it to the left. Open up that safe you have there. We know you have at least 10 million in cash at all times. So I need you to reach into that safe and pull me out $1 million, and then we can talk. He said, oh, Jackson, you are a smart man. You're darn right I'm smart. I was born tonight, but it wasn't last night. It wasn't in your country. And so to this day, he and I are very good friends, but he know when he calls me, he better have some money ready. And so it's all about relationships, Kellen, and that's the one theme I want your audience to understand, that you can have the best product, best service. Look at Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, famous Hall of Fame NBA player. He will never be in an ownership position of being a part owner of an NBA team. He will never get a coaching job. You know why? He was an a-hole. Mm-hmm. He was an arrogant, pompous SOB, and nobody in sports like him. And he's always doing things just to grate on you, to get under your skin. He's not a likable person. That's why, as great as he is, Hall of Famer now, legendary, he will never, ever get a job in the NBA doing anything. He can't even get a Goodwill ambassador job as a volunteer because he didn't have the relationship. LeBron James, he's got the relationships, but he's a sellout. I mean, they don't respect him. When I say they, the owners, they tolerate him because of his market value on the court, not off the court, on the court. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Kobe Bryant could get anything he wanted out of white folks, corporate America, the league, anywhere in the world. This guy was brilliant, brilliant. I'm like him as he is on the court. I'm like that in life. Man, while you're sleeping, I'm in the intellectual gym, reading an article, reading a book, sitting down talking with someone 80, 90 years old who got all this vast experience that I don't have. I'm addicted to knowledge and wisdom. And the only way you get there, Kelvin, is by sitting at the feet of those who came before you. But millennials today, they think civilization started when they came out of the womb. And that's why you will not produce anybody transformational from that generation. Yeah, they got money, they got social media and presence, but do they have power?
I like so much that you said, talking about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He also has a Rock Newman interview that will never be shown. You guys got to come to Palm Beach and ask Rock why that is.
No, Rock is a good friend of mine. I'm gonna call him about it. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and when you say the blacks have no intelligence, I love that title. Jesse Lee Peterson, don't try to steal that title because you're going to take it somewhere else. But, people are so scared. But it goes into something I heard you say and talk about the pushback, and I've gotten this. When you said it, it resonated with me. The same thing that you said about first class, because people think you'll be stunting. No, you just have a different type of flight when you and your family are traveling first class. And I always say when it's available, because there may be some times you got to get where you got to get. I just don't take certain airlines, especially with the fam. But you said something, and you've said it publicly many a times, the pushback you get from Black people, especially Black Democrats and Black people, even at universities, and the money that's there. Can you talk about and expose the audience? Because people think I'm crazy when I say it's the hardest to deal with HBCUs, and I love my HBCU. It's the hardest to deal with the Black church when you say, I got this idea, and this is 15 years ago, or maybe longer if I'm really looking at my, timeline of, hey, we could do this streaming thing. We don't have to just give it to the white church. We want to do it for everyone, but you have to go through so many hoops. Can you talk about your experience with that? Because I need to hear it. You preaching to the choir, and the choir needs to hear it.
Wow. You said them out. Let me tell you something about HBCU. There's a law on the books from 2010 that mandates that DOD works with HBCUs as far as research and development and future technology that DOD needs. They are mandated by law, and no HBCU is taking advantage. I've been working with one of my business partners for 3 years now. We're up to about 300 million in appropriation, but they should be getting billions of dollars. Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Maryland, MIT up in Massachusetts, Harvard, Yale. Johns Hopkins gets $4 billion a year, a line item appropriation in our budget every year, and that's our tax dollars. The one school, Kellen, wipes out all 100 HBCU. So Johns Hopkins, so we ain't even talking about MIT, Harvard, Yale, Stanford. Do you realize that the reason you have Google, because the guy that founded Google, the funny name, I can't pronounce it, they got government money from Stanford, and then they commercialized the technology into what we now know as Google. The cell phone, all these technologies all came from government funding, and the people that discovered it commercialized. Why in the heck aren't HBCUs taking advantage of this program? Show you how ignorant HBCUs are. I was in a meeting with them, this is about 3 years ago, and one of my closest friends in the U.S. Senate was chairman of the Armed Services Committee. So nothing goes through DOD without going through him. And he's a big guy within the aerospace industry. So in this meeting, I said to these presidents of HBCUs, I said, do you see any value in me taking you to meet the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, Kellen? I will never forget this as long as I live. And I told my buddy who set up this meeting, do not ever invite me to meet with an HBCU president again. I will not go, ever. And I haven't gone since then. These presidents told me how busy their schedule was. Chairman of Armed Services now.
Yeah.
He's been on the committee for 20 years, now chairman, and you're too busy doing what? This is the foolishness we do. When Trump was in the White House, he goes to meet with the HBC, and all this is on C-SPAN. So if you don't believe my lying voice, go pull it up. He meets with them, and Trump says, what do you all need from me? And you know what their response was, Kellen? We need debt forgiveness. One of your schools, Southern, after Katrina, they had like a $300 million debt and all that stuff, and Meharry in Tennessee, they had $100 million, whatever. And Trump pulled out a pen and wrote off the debt. Now, after he gets rid of them, he turns and looks at me, and I have to clean it up considerably. Jackson, what the F is going on with your people? Like, Mr. President, what the hell are you talking about? I'm meeting with these HBCU presidents. They could have asked me for anything, and I would have done it. They only asked me for debt forgiveness. I'm happy to give it to them. And now I don't owe them anything. I don't want to meet with them anymore. I've given them what they asked me to do. I'm through with them, and we moved on.
What's behind that? It can't just be ignorance. Is it political? Is it like what is behind not even having a meeting? Like even when I heard, certain groups in Congress, we're not going to meet with the president. That's not wise. Like you have no power. Like what's behind that spirit behind that? Because I've sat in even meetings with even church people, and you have to meet with these elders talking about how social media is going to help impact this dying church in Seattle, which was the biggest and oldest, at the time in Seattle. And you're like, why is everybody, 70 and above, or okay, 68 and above? And we're talking about social media. There are no young people. And then you go with somebody else who doesn't know what they're doing. Like, what is behind that? Because I want to think it's more than just being foolish and ignorant.
Wow, that's a good one. It may be all of the above, my man. For example, do you realize that in the U.S. Congress, as we speak today, the Congressional Black Caucus is the largest caucus in all of Congress. They can prevent or greenlight any piece of legislation that they want. So if Biden is not giving them what they want, they can stop his whole legislative agenda. When Trump was in there, when George W. Bush was in there, do you realize, Kellen, that in the United Nations, Africa had the largest voting bloc in all of the United Nations, if they were ever voting a bloc? And neither group exercises that power. So they get grand roughshod on every issue. And how in the world, Kellen, does the Congressional Black Caucus spend all of their time talking about homosexuality and what their rights are and transsexual and giving amnesty to illegals? Isn't it amazing when Kamala Harris was at Howard University last night, she gave this fiery speech, but then leave a check behind, didn't leave a piece of legislation there pushing that sign. But when they go to the Hispanic community, they come talking a check or a piece of legislation. When they go talk to the homosexual, they're saying, we're working on codifying you as a protected class under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. Name me one bill Biden has passed and codified it in law that benefits Black. I didn't say people of color. I didn't say minorities. I said Black folks. Name me one.
I can't. I cannot. I cannot. And I don't understand why, again, if you say, you don't want to vote Democrat, people look at you crazy. But again, I live in a bubble and you have your bubble, and, and you're up there in a very comfortable, safe bubble. And that's the thing. The pots are pissed in for yourself. You the best is yet to come, but the pots are pissed in. So you can say what you want to say and there's no pushback, but people will still look at you like you're crazy because you are personable and you're not stiff. You're not Mitch McConnell. You're going to crack a joke or two. And I bet behind the scenes, Mitch might crack a couple of jokes. It might get him canceled. I don't know, because his wife looked like, they might know how to turn up for real. But, but does it ever hurt your feelings where you say, look, I'm connected to these people. I've already done so much. I don't have to do another thing. I'm kind of like Jay-Z or Too Short. I'm good. I'm platinum. I got the plaques. But does it hurt your feelings to know that are the ears still, we don't have an ear to hear, a stiff-necked people?
So I don't let my emotions, I become a robot when I walk into my professional life because feelings don't matter. It's transactions.
But what about your personal life, though? The personal, because that's what you got to sleep with, right? For the money and for that, we can put, everybody has their mask on, they do what they got to do. But personally, when you go to bed and you're like, I could have changed that HBCU and then all those kids' lives if they would have just had a meeting. Like, that's the part I want to get into.
Well, yes, again, I become immune and numb to this because that's my default experience. So what I've had to do, Kellen, is almost like you can't save the whole boat. So just find one or two individuals who understand I'm here to save you. And they stop fighting you. And they're like, hey, just embrace me off this boat and get me to dry land. And because, if you're trying to save someone that's drowning, if they start splashing around, guess what? Both of y'all are going to drown.
Yeah.
So I just learned to deal with folks who are ready. I tell folks all the time, Kellen, don't bring me anyone that's getting ready to get ready. When they're ready to go through the door, when they're ready for that one phone call to get them in front of the decision maker, that's where I come in. My mission from God, my role is not to get you prepared to play on the level I'm on. When you're ready to play, that's when I step. I fully understand now, Kellen, what my strengths and weaknesses are and what my role is. And I have to deal with people who are ready, even if you don't understand. I tell folks all the time, I get calls all the time, Kellen, people needing a favor, they can't get this, they can't. I like, just like with a lot of clients I represent, especially those in science and technology, like, hey, don't explain your technology to me. It ain't that serious to me. I don't understand it. I don't need to understand. Tell me who you need to meet with, either an individual or by title, with and what company or what government agency. My job is to get you in front of that person. I'll get you through the door, but then you close the deal. But I'll lay up the groundwork all the way up to that meeting, and then you do your thing once I get you in there.
Okay. And so for those of you who say, oh man, I can get the hookup. Thank you, Kellen. Let me call. Hold on. Before you call an email, Chief Jackson, let the people know ranges, because people will call you and they don't even know what a SBA score or PTAC is. I can tell you, I've talked to so many people, they're like, they've made money. PTAC, what's that? You go do what PTAC can help you out with that. I want to help you out, like you said, when you're ready. But what is the range when they say they are ready and maybe they do have their 8A or they've graduated out of the program and they're ready? What are the ranges they need to have? Because especially in our community, our folks say, well, we're so accustomed to the hookup. And can you help me out? No, but you can hire the services.
There you go.
The company.
There you go.
So give them a range before they send you an email or try to, brother, I love what you said, and they gas you up, because I want to stop the nonsense and the foolery. But, go ahead.
Yeah. You definitely better come with a check. Just like these African presidents, and they know when they call me, it's not a matter of whether they're going to have a check. The question we negotiate is how much the check going to be. Not if there's going to be a check, but how much the check is going to cost. And so, listen there. When you're dealing with, it's taken me 30 years to build up these types of relationships where I can call a sitting president of the United States directly without going through aid, or I can call a foreign leader directly at this. I got the type of relationship going where these guys give me their private cell numbers, their wife number, their home number, their side pieces number. and I'm not really exaggerating on that. And they're like, hey, between all these folks, you'll get directly to me. And so what you're paying for, Kellen, for example, you don't need me to get you a meet with a senator or congressman. It will take you more time to get that meeting because they don't know you. But if you're persistent, you can get that meeting. What you're paying me for, I have a relationship with them. I know what they will and won't do. If you come to me, Kellen, and say, hey, man, I'll pay you $25,000. Here's my issue. I need help with this, that. If I know this particular individual is not feeling where you're coming from, I'm not taking your money. I'm not going to do it. So you're paying me for knowing what's possible, what's not. You're paying me for my wisdom and experience. And listen, Kellen, man, I've learned this. A college can teach you what I know. I've learned through heartache. You talk about hurt feelings, man. When I was coming through the game, man, how in the heck, when you got someone like an old man Bush cursing you out because you showed up late or you didn't do this right and all that, and you literally almost in tears, and then next day he called you up, come to my office, and he starts hugging on you. So, but that comes through experience. And so in DC and all over the world, let me give you a clear example, and then that's going to answer your question. I got this call one day. This brother was told he needed to talk to me. He did some work for the Department of Defense, and they owed him $1 million. Now, the Department of Defense, their budget is around $750 billion. So $1 million is a nuisance to them. That's a rounding error. But yet to a small business, that's the difference between you paying people and going out of business. So it's a lot of money in real terms, but in the big scheme of things with DOD, you a nuisance to them, man. And so he was fighting with them for 6 months to get his money, and there was no dispute about the quality of his work. It was just stuck in a bureaucratic black hole. So the guy called me. I said, what's the issue? He told me what it is. I said, I tell you what, it's $1 million. I said, here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna pay me $25,000 just to see what I can do. And I'm not guaranteeing you're gonna get your result, but this is for the value of my time. And I said, if I get your money, I want another $75,000 as a success fee. And he said, okay, that's reasonable to me. So I said, let me make a few phone calls. So I called some people. I said, hey, I got a senator friend of mine who said he will help you with the issue, and we're gonna bring you by next week to see him. He said, who are we gonna meet with? I said, this is the first time I've ever said this publicly in this story. We're putting names on it. But I think your audience would appreciate this, and you've been a Southern boy, I think you would appreciate it. It was Senator Strom Thurmond from South Carolina. Ran in 1948 on the segregationist ticket, was anti-civil rights. And, later on, before he died, Kellen, he became the biggest supporter of HBCUs in the history of the US. That's documented as far as pumping money through the, so he evolved over time. When in 1948, when he ran for the presidency on a segregationist ticket, he was in the mainstream of America. We can't view him in 2023 the way the world was back in 1948. Totally different thing. So this client says, he went on for 15 minutes. I'm not meeting with no Strom. He's a racist. He this, he that. I just sat on the phone, Kelly, and just let him get it all out of the system. And when he calmed down, I said, okay, let me tell you what. You've already wired me the $25,000. I'm not giving it back to you, because I'm doing everything I said I was going to do through the contract. Now, last time I checked, you told me you needed your $1 million from DOD. I say to you, I'm going to get you that money. You didn't stipulate it had to be done this way or that way or this way. You said, handle your business, and you just want the $1 million. Now, if you don't want to meet with Senator Strom Thurmond, Mr. Segregationist, I'm cool. I just walked away with $25,000 without doing a damn thing. I'm cool with that. I said, so what you need to do is think about it. You call me back and let me know what you want to do. So he called me back a couple of days later as though he's doing me some favor, like, all right, we'll go meet with him then. I'm like, okay, it's your money, not mine. I'm cool. And so I take him in to meet Strom Thurmond. And, we do a little small talk and chatter, and I'll have to clean this up yet again. And he's like, I know you niggers didn't come in here to talk this, MF this and that. What do you need? What can I do to help you? And I said, tell him what the issue is. And I'd already briefed him on it. So we're going through this orchestrated dance at this point. So I already knew what the outcome was. But yeah, I wanted to make him feel like I earned my money and make him sweat a little bit. So he told him what the issue is. Like, so what base did this work take place on? It says Fort Detrick out in Maryland, one of the biggest classified base in the country. He called his chief of staff in. He said, call the commandant of the base in Fort Detrick, get him on the phone immediately. Commandant comes on the phone and he said, there any reason why you haven't paid this goddamn, this boy his money? And he said, Senator, because remember, Strom Thurmond is chairman of Armed Services. He said, Senator, he said, no, I don't want you to check in. I need that money wired by tomorrow morning, and I will be calling you in the morning to find out what the status is. The money was sitting in his account that morning. So what is more important for you? To make a political point because of what Strom Thurmond did in 1948, and I wasn't even born then, or to get your money? You don't have to go drinking with Strom Thurmond. You don't have to live next door to him, but he was willing on my strength to give you what you said you desperately needed. And we got to start, Kellen, stop with all the foolishness about Trump is racist or this person is. I don't care if they're racist. If I got a headache and they got some aspirin on the table and they're willing to give me 2 pills to get my headache out of my man, you think I'm gonna turn them down because they marched with David Duke back in the day? Really? That shouldn't even be a consideration. But what we do is we allow our emotions and our politics to get in the way of our business. Now, isn't it amazing that the members of the Black Caucus, none of their districts are thriving? You look at Maxine Waters, she was chairman of the banking committee, Kellen, and couldn't get a bank in her district. Why? She supported legislation that were killing banks, and all these banks said, we're not putting a branch in your district. You beating us up on everything, so screw you and your people. That's why these districts don't have anything, because as opposed to finding a way of working with these men, you can agree with them on 1 out of 10 issues. Deal with them on that one issue, leave the other 9 alone. Yeah. But we're not that sophisticated.
Well, because we don't understand how politics works, and when we, play the game, you talk about Strong Thurmond. This is purely, of course, your opinion, because we can't go and ask them, right? But this ain't Jurassic Park, Web 3, and it's AI. But do you think he was supportive of the HBCUs? Because we know he liked to dip in the pudding, the chocolate pudding pop, and we have proof of that. You think there was anything of any guilt or, man, I'm a hypocrite, I like the chocolate. But you think anything like that was why he was, supportive of the HBCUs, or maybe it was, something else? Maybe there was some business he had with.
No, I could answer that question on a factual basis, because I had conversations over the years about that. And the answer is he evolved. He changed. I mean, again, in 1948, he was in the mainstream of America. Now, that's hard for us to understand that in 2023 or even 1980. But he represented where America as a country was when it came to Black folk. And again, we had to be more sophisticated, Kellen, to be able to go back. That's why I have this issue with this wokeness going on now, because In Living Color could not be made today. Mm-hmm. They were so cutting edge in their comedy. Yeah. They could not be on the air today.
Men on Film would have been canceled. And
no question. No question. And so again, I got some documents from my folks in the intel community, more specifically CIA. The CIA, you know what the CIA's assessment of Black folks as a community is from back in the 60s all the way to right now. And here's what they say. This is on paper. Blacks are emotional. You get them emotional, they lose sight of the target. That's why whenever there's a volatile situation in the Black community, the government goes in and get them emotional. They'll create a riot. They don't mind you burning down your own community, but see, you know it ain't happening. You go to the Mzungu part of town. They ain't happening. You notice that never happens? It's always our own community. So what they've done with law enforcement from the local, state, and federal have said, cool, we'll let them release their frustration. I grew up in Ferguson. So when that whole Michael Brown thing, I knew all the players there, and their reaction was very expected and typical. And yet, do you realize to this day, the former mayor, and I was on this radio show last month, good friend of my brother, first Black mayor of St. Louis. To this day, Kellen, Black folks never benefited from all that federal money that was flowing into St. Louis and Ferguson as a result of the Michael Brown death. White folks took all that money and did their thing with it. We got nothing to show for it, and that's our fault. That ain't got nothing to do with racism. That's our fault. We had the money coming in, but we didn't know how to manipulate the money to get into our community and our bank account. That's on us. So I don't want to hear anybody talking about racism, the system. Kellen, how in the heck in Baltimore, Chicago, New York, Black folks running around talking about the system is rigged, it's racism and white supremacy? You got a Black mayor, Black police chief, Black district attorney, Black congressman, Black state rep, Black state senator. Where's racism? Now, if you don't know how to play the game, that's called ignorance. That's on you.
Yeah, and that's what people say. You give reparations today, don't care what the money is, and then it goes back into the system. People say, well, they never taught us. At some point, in my audience, you guys know, you have to be accountable for your actions. There's a great book, Extreme Ownership, written by, some Navy SEALs, talking about we got poor soldiers, but we're Navy SEALs. We had to train them in Afghanistan and everywhere else. You have to take accountability because, America, period, loves instant gratification. That's not a black, white, or anything. That's an American thing. That's why we can go somewhere and say, what you mean they don't got Wi-Fi here? And in the grocery store, in the restaurant, you don't have Wi-Fi because we're so, we're like cyborgs almost. So I definitely, and that might be on, I ordered your book, so I haven't read it, but you have books in you. And with this chat GBT, you might have a whole series. You might have more books than Brother Polite, but yours will be, copyrighted and and yeah, I teased, but can you tell the people, because we talk about money and you've done so much, can you talk about a community give back that you're doing or one that you like to do in the future?
Well, Kellen, one thing about me, I do so much for folks that will never be public, and I even tell my clients in the NFL and NBA, sometimes it's better to have an invisible hand and yet know that, and I give you the classic example of what I'm talking about, Denzel Washington. Man, I think the world, I've never met him. That's one guy I really want to meet and just be able to sit down and chill with him. I watch him, and I watch any movie he's in, I'm watching, period, number one. But I don't care about his movie. I like to watch his interviews because these reporters are hell-bent on getting him to buy into this woke ideology that they're promoting through Hollywood, and Denzel ain't having it. I've seen interviews where he just maliciously shut down reporters because he like, well, you can ask me a million different directions. I told you what my answer is, and I'm not changing. Where was this kid's father at 5 or 7 years old? So you want me to talk about kids when they hit 15 and 16 and get locked up, and you want me to feel sorry for them? Where were that kid's parents at? Let's talk about that. Shuts down the interview, man. And so, but yeah, for example, one of my friends in high school, I never will forget this. He's one of the biggest drug dealers back in St. Louis, and he was global. And man, you get me to say things I've never even said publicly before, man. But he called me one day, because whenever I go back home, a lot of my friends in the underworld, I'll go to lunch with them because I don't need to preach to them, Kellen. They know what they're doing is wrong. They know I don't play. I've never used drugs in my life, and everyone looked at me like, come on, everybody's tried it once. No, read my lip, ever. I don't believe in recreational drugs. I don't try just to see what it's like. I'm crazy naturally. I'm terrified, Kellen. What the heck would I be like if I ever got drunk or high? I'm afraid to find out. Because if I'm this way sober and natural, what the heck would I be like? I don't want the answer, man. I don't want to find out that answer. So no, I've never tried it. So he called me one day and said, hey, man, I want to get out of the game. Can you help me? Because he knew some of my connections in law enforcement. So I said, I said, I'll tell you what, before I do it, I'm going to fly home this weekend, and you and I'm going to have you come up to my suite. We're going to have food brought up, and you and I are going to have a come to Jesus. We're going to talk. And I said, listen, I think I can help you, but don't have me put my neck out if you ain't serious and you ain't ready, and that you understand what you're about to go through. And so I fly home, sit down, talk with him, have a good time catching back up, high school days, whatever. And then we get to the business at hand. And he said, listen, man, I made all the money I need. And now I realize I've destroyed a lot of folks in our community. And I want to go straight and, get my legitimate businesses running and just fade off into the sunset. So I walked away feeling he was ready. He knew what he was about to go through. I laid it out to him in graphic detail. So I come back up to DC, talk to my people, and they did a check on him and everything. But, oh, this guy's a major player. Boom, boom, boom. He's willing to do this, do that. So yeah, so we got everything set up, man. the weekend he was supposed to come up here, man, he was in Chicago and he got blown away. That hurt me to this day, man.
Sorry.
Because he was a good dude. You know, listen, we're all one bad decision away from doing something crazy, you know, whatever it is. And so I don't judge my folks that, but they knew. Because see, when I ran for high school president, when you go to the bathroom in my school back there, Kellen, you didn't go there to go to the bathroom. People were smoking joints, gambling, playing dice, whatever. So, you know, when you walk in the bathroom, you were there to participate. I was going there to go to the bathroom because I had to be. And so when I was walking, and he and other of my, what I call my mafia folk, they said, listen, hey, Raynard's in there. Y'all put that stuff up, let him handle his business, and nobody messing with him. And I go in there, handle my business, get out, and they get back to whatever they're doing. These are the guys with my campaign managers when I was running for high school president, man. And they went around, they didn't ask you to vote for me. They said, you're voting for Raynard. You know, that's just the way, and it happened. I won in the landslide. And so a lot of the things I do there are certain things I do on the charitable space that's public knowledge, like a lot of my athletes in the NFL, NBA, and R&B, we do a lot of celebrity golf tournaments. We do football and basketball camps for the kids. So that's the part of my charitable work that's known to the public, but there's so many other things I do. I'll give you another example that won't show up anywhere. There's a couple of scandals, the Abramoff scandal, and you know, people who keep up with politics know what that is. But some of my boys got caught up in, you know, taking bribes and extortion and all that stuff. They end up going to jail. And here's the interesting thing, Kellen, show you how God operates. I'm pissed at my people because we hanging out together, we doing business together. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, my guys are taking private helicopters on Friday, going to the Eastern Shore of Maryland to beach houses. And I'm like, what am I, chopped liver? Why are you all not cutting me in on this? Yeah. And I could never get an answer from these guys. Then when all the legal stuff hit, found out that everyone in my group said, no, Raynard's a goody two-shoes. He ain't crossing no ethical lines like that, so we got to keep him out of it. So I was pissed because I wanted a piece of it, because, you know, who doesn't want to fly in a private helicopter to go to a beach house on the weekend, you know, and have the luxuries of life? But be careful what you ask for. Sometimes when God closes the door, it's for a reason. It's for a reason. And so my guys end up going to jail. And so I would go to their houses, with, you know, holler at their wives and the kids, literally, Kellen. Now, this gets to your question. I would go in there pull out a wad of money. I don't even know how much it was. It's probably a few $1,000s each. Give it to the wives. I have a trunk full of groceries and things for them and the kids. And the wives, these are white folks now. Yeah. They're in tears because they said, why are you doing this? It's like, everybody's turning away from me and they won't return my call. It's like sort of like in the movie Goodfellas, near the end, when nobody would help the boy when he came out of jail and the wife was there by herself, nobody helped him out. I did just the opposite. And there's like, everyone's turning their back on it. You're the only one that calls me. You're the only one that helps me out. So when my boys get out of jail, guess what? I'm the one to help clean them up, get them a job, get them back on their feet. Now they're kicking butt again. And so I do all kind of things like that, man. And I have people calling me if they think their son, daughter, cousin, nephew, niece, you know, getting a bad rap in the legal system. I've been fortunate enough to be able to make a few phone calls and help clean some things up. And some of the cases you are very well aware of that's in the public domain, but again, I don't put my fingerprints on things like that. And so some people may say, well, you don't give anything back to the community. Just because you don't know about it doesn't mean it's not happening.
Real talk.
Yeah.
Real talk. Let's go, because some people, even with your friend's story in St. Louis, and again, one of my mentors back in the day in Grambling, he told me, he said, you know, you don't get starstruck because this is what you do for a living. This is part of your purpose. So to you, this is just work. Most people will never be able to talk to a Russell Simmons, a Wyatt Clef, or whoever you want to name, right? But even interning, it was the same thing. I remember the staff, when I was talking to Sheila Jackson Lee, they're like, you talked to her? I said, I'm just saying hi and just chopping it up. She's a person, and I'm a poor intern, right? Flying to Chicago on the weekend so I can afford to do this after grad school. But people hear your story and say, oh man, that's Illuminati. Oh, he done sold his soul to the Scottish Rite, and that's why he had his fingers, and they do all that. Can you talk about and debunk some of that? Because I've been to the temple. And when I'm in the temple, I am a traveling man, but I'm not a traveling man. I just want people to know that, because people ask. But when I'm in the temple, I don't feel any different than when I'm in Chichen Itza at their temple, right? And because there's a lot of sacrifice that happened in Chichen Itza and Tulum and all that. But can you talk about, do you have to sell your soul? Do you have to be a traveling man? Do you have to, for the women, ride that goat? And I don't want to say too much because y'all will ask Kellen what you really know, but talk about that and clarify that, because even people, they say, oh, Rick Ross, and I can tell you what they don't want in the upper echelon. Now, Rick Ross might have his part to play in the Black community to sell what he sells, but you're talking, when you go into the Rosicrucians and you talk about this stuff is deep. It's deep. It's bigger than 33 degrees. Can you talk about that at all? Because I don't want people to put that jacket on you and say, he got his friend killed. He tried to get out, and then he had the government kill his own friend because he tried to leave, because that's all they know from the movies. When you try to leave, they pull you back in. So give the game on that, because Carlito couldn't even get out. Benny Blanco from the Bronx had to hit him up. So talk about, do you have to be in certain organizations or fraternities to excel?
No. See, I don't think I belong to any group. I mean, because listen, I just believe in getting results done. I want to get you where you want to be, and it's all about, again, I know I sound like a broken record and it sounds so trite, Kellen. It's all about relationship. I don't need to go meet with people, Kellen. I can sit right here at the house and make a few phone calls and get what it would take you 2 or 3 months of running around the country meeting with. I just pick up the phone, make a call, and it's done. Because I done spent the time 30 years ago where I'm at that point where I can just make a call. I don't need to move around. I can make a call from anywhere in the world, and I'm one phone call away from anybody in the world. I can get, if I needed to, not want to, if I needed to get with the president of North Korea, I can get to him if I need to. And so people got to quit. If you want to understand how this game works, Godfather 2, Goodfellas, and don't watch for the dramatic stuff. Watch personalities. Watch who. Remember in Goodfellas, at the beginning of the movie, the kid was a little high schooler. He ended up dropping out of high school. He was basically an errand boy for the mafia folk. Worked his way up the system. He was not a made man, but he had more juice than a made man because he spent his time cultivating relationships. So even though he wasn't a made man, he can pick up the phone and make things happen. What happened to Joe Pesci's character? The guy, the quick to pull out the gun and shoot everybody. He ended up getting shot.
Yeah.
From his own team because he was a liability to him. And so, again, Kelly, you just gotta know. Listen, if I need to get to Farrakhan, I can get to him. If I need to get to the Pope, I can get to the Pope. If I need to get to Billy Graham Jr. or Jerry Falwell Jr., I mean, I just pick up the phone. I mean, so my point is people forget the glamour that Hollywood shows you. Because I'm gonna tell you, like making a movie is boring as hell. As far as the actual mechanics of making a movie, these actors spend more time in that trailer than they do in front of the camera. And that's the side the public doesn't see. They think it's all glitz and glam. It's hard work, man. You work, when you're on scene, you may be working 18-hour days, man. No exaggeration. Jack Nicholson, remember the Few Good Men? You Can't Handle the Truth? They did 20 takes of that. And in all 20 takes, Jack Nicholson said the same line verbatim 20 times. That's unheard of. Unheard of.
Yeah, but hey, when you got the director and you got to have that perfection, and some of this, like again, on Amazon, I have bought your book. I'm waiting for it to come to me. I want people to get the game because some of what this wisdom that you have, you guys got to read this, and then you can go push and say, we need another book and we need an audio book because, you know, the folks aren't reading. There's a whole generation not reading. And you mentioned that earlier about what you read is probably why you achieve. Miles Monroe taught us that back in the day, you know.
Miles, a good friend. He went to Oral Roberts with me.
And he said, read a book a week until he said, my wife starts reading 2 books a week. So that's game for y'all because I've worked in Massachusetts and I've worked with some connected guys because if you know Massachusetts, you know what type of state and you really know what type of city Springfield is. You know who runs it on what side of the town and who you need to know. But I don't want to give them too much because they'll say, oh man, this was a whole, you know, they'll put a whole nother jacket on all of us. And y'all, I really, unless you want to come to Africa, don't have no money for you. I'll be honest. You can come through the African company and, you know, hit Diallo up, but I don't ask me for any venture funding. I'm part of a fund here in Florida. I'll give you their name, but that's it. Don't ask me, ask Chief over here, Jackson. He got the Jackson money, you know, but I do want to clarify and say, you know, as far as courses, books, touring, do you have anything, you know, coming for this next generation that now wants to even cancel old rappers and don't want to, like what you're saying isn't relevant to them because they didn't see it on, you know, TikTok and you doing a dance or something? Do you have anything? And you can also give the game on what you think about that. It's like Children of the Corn right now. You know, oh, you're old or you're outdated or you're irrelevant. And it's like, hold on, I'm debt free. Are you living with your mama? Are you know, you got 5 other roommates? So talk, you know, expound however you want on all of that rant I just went on.
Yeah, isn't it amazing? I gave a speech a couple months ago on that very question. The most influential people in the world have almost 0 social media presence. Think about it. Mm-hmm. Most of your audience probably never heard of Dave Stewart, the wealthiest Black in the U.S., out of St. Louis, my buddy. I've known him for 30 years. I knew him when his car was being repossessed because he couldn't afford to pay for it in 1990. He went from 0 revenues in 1990 to over 17 billion right now in IT, not in, and he also the first brother to be a minority owner of the St. Louis Blues professional hockey team, a brother who grew up in the rural parts of Missouri owning a hockey team. 0 social media presence. I've been working with him for decades, man, and he'll give an interview every now and then. But again, if you look at the most influential people, they're not on social media. And so the millennials' response to me is, but because they are of a certain age demographic. So which is more important for you, Mr. Millennial, Gen X, Gen Z? Which is more important for you to have 100,000 followers or for you to have $100 million in the bank? Your choice. You can be popular and broke or unknown and wealthy. Your choice. And most of these guys will pick popularity. Show me, Kellen, show me the white Lizzo. Show me the Hispanic Lizzo. They don't exist. It's only in our community. Show me the Hispanic gangster rappers. Show me the white gangster rappers. They don't exist, only in our community. And so we got to get off of this fetish of I want the world to know who I am. You know what? When you're successful, people that need to know you're successful. That's why I will never be able to respect LeBron James because I never will forget. He was on some talk show and he started glossing himself, talking about I am the GOAT. Have you ever noticed that Michael Jordan, who is the GOAT, had never said that. And whenever he asked that question, he said, that's for other people to decide. When you're confident in your ability and your track record, Kellen, you don't have to go around bragging. You don't have to floss yourself. That's other people's job to floss you. When you have to do it, that shows me you're insecure.
And the scriptures tell you, let other folks brag on you and boast on you, you know, for all those who believe in those scriptures, you know.
I'll tell you an interesting story about that. I was at the airport the other day picking up a rental-a-car. And so that was a long line, even though I'm Avis President's Club, which means, you know, I get the VIP treatment, but that was a long line on this particular day. And this particular airport, you know, I'm a regular there because I travel there a lot. So one of my little girls behind the counter saw me, and I'm looking down, reading my phone, reading an article or something. She walks up, startles me, say, "Oh, here's your key." Everyone in the lines turned around and like, who the hell is this guy? You got a girl leaving the counter, coming up, giving him his key, and I'm on my way. Because relation, you know what I did what I do with girls like that, Kellen? A couple of months ago, I sent the whole staff some pizza. You know, and when I know it's one of their birthdays, I'll bring in a small box of candy and give it to them. Or if I had this one girl just mentioned while she was getting my car. Had a little kid, had a little son, like 7, 8 years old, broke his leg playing basketball. So I called one of my guys in the NBA, had them autograph a jersey and a basketball, shipped it to him. This kid, the happiest dude in the world, he forgot about his broken leg because he goes to school hopping on his crutches with this NBA jersey, you know, like, look what I got, you know, and that means the world to that little kid. It means nothing to me. That was just a phone call.
Yeah.
That mother, it meant the world to her. It's nothing to me. It's just a phone call. But those are the ways you can impact people in your daily life that don't cost you anything, man. You know, and so this whole notion about, and to your audience, Kellen, let me tell you something now. When I see somebody put on their resume, on their social media, I'm an influencer, I'm a content, I ignore them. Because anytime, who do you influence? And if you're an influential person, all the influential people I know don't have to say they're influential. They just are.
Real talk.
And so when I see that on people's social media, I'm like, okay, next one. I don't even acknowledge that. I just move on because you can't operate in the world I operate in.
That's real talk. And let me give an example because people say, you know, and it's not a boast, but people ask me, Kellen, I heard from another influencer, and I'll say his name so you guys can go ask him. You know, he said you knew Kevin Samuels, or I said, hold on. O'Shea Duke Jackson hooked us up with Kevin Samuels, which O'Shea hooks up a lot of Black influence. I tell people, if you want to be popular, go ask O'Shea Duke Jackson to talk about you because he has so many people he's talked to. And you and I are just doing our purpose. And I have a friend who he asked me to do an interview on his big show. I said, I will not talk about that man because that was not my, you know, that's not my place to talk about it. And to be honest, it wasn't my friend. Somebody needed something from me. They called and they asked before they were famous, right? And timing just is what it is. I'm one grain of sand, but I influence the influencers. I know that, but I don't want these people's lives because I love eating with my family and nobody knows who I am. Reason why I grow my locks. Hey, please think I'm homeless. Please leave me alone. You know, and these locks, y'all, if you guys need some hair, I am going to change the look. 1 Corinthians about to have me change my whole look. It's beating me, it's hit me. So if you guys need some hair, there's an organization, holler at me. My daughters don't want it, so you know, let me know. But you are doing your purpose and you're doing it your way. I want to ask you off air a whole bunch of questions. You guys, I'm going to end it like this because we can do this all day, especially when he comes to Palm Beach. And we can be at the restaurant, we can be at the house, or we can be in the studio, wherever. But I'm going to ask him, and I'm not going to tell you what he says, but I need to know, and this is where I end it. is Ann Coulter really like on the Boondocks? You know, is she really like how the Boondocks portrayed her? Where, yeah, and we're not going to talk about that on here, but give them any last words, and I want them to think about, man, Ann Coulter, how was she portrayed? Because the way she was portrayed on the Boondocks is how a lot of these people, I know, not DeSantis, but some other Republicans who I've kicked it with, and I'm like, these people are cooler than a fan, but they all got you know, a role to play. But give them your last words, your things of wisdom. Then I'm gonna really get into that conversation when I cut this camera off.
Right. Yeah, matter of fact, Ann is a dear friend of mine, and I love her to death, and she's a sweetheart. And she's nothing like she's portrayed in the media, and that's for sure. And matter of fact, a lot of times we hang out down there in Palm Beach. So when we all can schedule sync, if she's down there, I'll bring out, we just sit and chill, go grab something to eat outdoors, man. And just kick. She's a wonderful person, man, wonderful person, and a brilliant thinker, man. And when I put a photo of she and I on my social media, oh, sister came after me. And because I did a column, and for your listeners, Google why Black men need more white women. That was the column I wrote. That was the title. And I won't tell them what the content was, but that was the title. And it set off a blaze of fire within the Black community. And I got beat up. But then when people actually read what I wrote, some of them had guts enough to come back and apologize. But listen, you got to stop believing how people are portrayed in the media. You meet them yourself and you interact with them, and you base your judgment on your interaction with them, because someone else's enemy may not be my enemy. And because you and so had a beef, that don't mean they got to have a beef with me. You know, so you have to determine yourself based on your interaction, because I'm telling you, and when I come down, we got a lot to talk about offline, that some of the people that the general public, especially in our community, think are the biggest racists in the world have been some of my biggest supporters. Supporters. I'm talking about to the tunes of not only millions of dollars, but if I need advice and guidance, and these are well-known public figures that have been branded racist, I don't have that experience with them. And so you think I'm going to stop talking to them because you or the NAACP say they bad people? No, ain't happening like that. Ain't happening. Weak people, Kellen, take strong positions on weak issues.
Real talk, real talk. And with that, you guys have been blessed with so much game. Rewind it, take notes, but most importantly, share it with somebody. It will change their life. Y'all be blessed.
Are you tired of the rat race in America? Are you ready to visit the motherland to relax and rejuvenate? Are you ready to explore all that Africa has to offer? Then check out the brand new Diversified Game Academy course, Prepare for My First Trip to Africa. Are you worried about being able to afford the trip? We got you. We will show you how to travel either on a budget or as a baller. Learn how to stress the value of the USD. Did you know that 100 United States dollars is worth over 1,000 South African rand, or 10,000 Kenyan shillings, or 54,250 West African CFA? Are you worried about taking your kids? Get the game from Kellen Cash, a bona fide world traveler, having traveled to almost 20 countries, several of those in Africa. Get the game on taking your kids on their first trips. Learn how to find the best tickets, get the visas, and plan your own adventures in Africa. Don't let Eddie Murphy have all the fun. Plan your own coming to Africa trip starring you, produced by you, and featuring you. If you are ready for a life-changing experience, sign up for our course today, Diversified Game Academy. Get prepared and purchase at diversifiedgame.com.